manages to
Well, these are visuals which are coming in, and I believe the ED has arrived there at P. Chidambaram's residence. We are going to get a confirmation of where these visuals are coming in, but that's the big breaking news that we've been getting for you. ED has arrived at P. Chidambaram's residence. I beg your pardon, I believe it is the CBI which has reached at P. Chidambaram's residence, which you can see the first visuals of right here on time. Now remember, P. Chidambaram has lost the political, the immunity shield that he had against arrest. Earlier in the day, the courts had said that no matter who you are, and just because you may have been a former finance minister does not mean that you cannot be held accountable. The investigative agencies were told essentially that P. Chidambaram, in case he loses the cover, it does mean that he now faces arrest. These are visuals coming in. The CBI is there at P. Chidambaram, the former finance minister's home. This regarding the INX media case, where remember, P. Chidambaram lost the immunity against arrest earlier today. Does that mean that he may just be arrested now by the CBI? We are waiting to see how things unfold. Remember, P. Chidambaram's counsel, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, has also now moved the Supreme Court. I believe Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan is joining us. Madhav, if you can explain to us what really is happening at P. Chidambaram's home right now, Chennai home, I believe these are the visuals coming in. Is it a possibility that he may be arrested now?
Well, you know, what has transpired in the court is very, very significant today, with the High Court rejecting the plea. The interim protection that P. Chidambaram had thus far has therefore, with this rejection of the bail plea, very clearly been removed. And there's perhaps in that sense no legal barrier as far as the investigating agencies are concerned. In this case, these are CBI officials, is what our reporters are telling us from on ground, that have reached the Jorbagh residence of Mr. P. Chidambaram in the national capital. Now, really, when it comes to such cases, one really looks at lawyers approaching a higher court, and even though Mr. Chidambaram's team moved with much alacrity today, we saw a battery of lawyers, Kapil Sibal, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Mr. Chidambaram himself, and also Mr. Salman Khurshid present in the Supreme Court today. They did try and approach the CJI's bench, but I believe that hearing was over as far as the bench is concerned, and then trying and approaching the registrar.
In fact, do stay on with us, Madhav. Nikunj Garg is also joining us here on Times Now, our internal security editor. Well, Nikunj, this is very dramatic. We are still waiting to find out how things unfold, but there is a real possibility, isn't it, since the Supreme Court's plea is still pending for P. Chidambaram, that there may just be an arrest. Oh, well, it seems like we don't have Nikunj Garg right now, but these are the visuals coming in from the CBI team, which is currently there in P. Chidambaram's residence. This is a visual which is coming in, which may just be very dramatic, because remember, earlier today, P. Chidambaram lost the shield, the immunity shield that he had from arrest, after the court said that no matter who you are going to be, you are now going to be probed. In fact, very categorically, it said that look at the enormity of the proof. This essentially leads to the entire crumbling of the vendetta charge which had levelled time and again by P. Chidambaram and the Congress party, that the case against him of INX media is nothing but witch hunt. But today the courts have said that look at the magnitude of the evidence which has come in. So there is a possibility that P. Chidambaram may just face the jail, considering he does not have immunity from arrest. Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan has been getting us all the details of this. Well, Madhav, this is very interesting, and we'll have to wait and see what really happens. But P. Chidambaram hasn't exhausted all his legal remedies, has he? And I believe Nikunj Garg is also joining us. Nikunj, if you can explain to us, do you have any more details you can share with us as to what may just happen next now that the CBI team's at P. Chidambaram's residence?
Well, Meghna, there are two possibilities. One is that they are there to serve him additional summons to be present in front of the Central Bureau of Investigation for further questioning in the case. Because remember, the questioning has also been stalled at certain point of time because of the ongoing legal battles in various courts of law. The second possibility, of course, is a more dreaded possibility, particularly from Mr. Chidambaram's point of view, is that the teams are there to effect an arrest. Now that Mr. Chidambaram's effective cover or the protection from arrest is gone effectively, with the Supreme Court yet not seized of the matter and High Court waiving off that protective cover, the enforcement agencies are well within their rights to effect an arrest. And if that is happening, that surely is going to be a big dramatic development in this case. Former Home Minister, former Finance Minister of the country in the last UPA
Nikunj,
government.
I'm sorry, I'll have to interrupt you for just a second, Padmaja here, because we're also joined by Mr. Subramaniam Swamy on the phone line right now. Dr. Swamy, is there anything standing in the way of Mr. Chidambaram's possible arrest? We're seeing images now of the CBI team already at his residence.
No, there's nothing legally in the way. It's all clear now. It's only a question of a judgment call of the CBI and ED, whether they want to do it now or they want to do it after the Supreme Court has pronounced on his petition. My opinion is they should do it now, and if the Supreme Court decides otherwise, then we can act according to the Supreme Court's direction. But Mr. Chidambaram has avoided and been evasive for 1.5 years, and he doesn't deserve any special consideration. Now, with the clarity of the Delhi High Court, I would strongly recommend them to take him into custody and interrogate him in custodial interrogation framework.
And at the risk of being slightly speculative, but that would also depend, Dr. Swamy, on Mr. Chidambaram's whereabouts, whether he is found here.
Don't worry. We know exactly where he is. He could be in an embarrassing position, but we know how to catch him.
Dr. Swamy, also, just for the understanding of our viewers, how does this work out? So tomorrow there will be a mentioning of Mr. Chidambaram's case in the Supreme Court. So at the very least, there's a possibility that he could spend tonight in jail.
Oh, if he's taken into custody tonight, they cannot go to the Supreme Court in the night. Those days are gone when you could buy a telephone call at midnight, get the Supreme Court to give an order. But now the Supreme Court is much more conscious of the legal process and not to interfere unnecessarily in corruption cases. So I don't think Chidambaram is going to get any relief from the Supreme Court. If you ask me, they've taken the totality of circumstances.
Okay. Dr. Swamy, thank you very much for speaking to Times. Let me cut straight across to Nikunj Garg as well. What's the update that you can give us? We can see the team at Mr. Chidambaram's residence there. Nikunj.
Well, yes, Padmaja, as I was telling you in my first conversation, the fact is that there are two options now. Option number one is, of course, they will serve him a summons for a further appearance in front of the Central Bureau of Investigation, because the questioning also was stalled because of the ongoing legal battle. Option number two is a little more draconian possibility for Mr. Chidambaram, which is of his immediate arrest. Effecting an arrest at this case would effectively mean that Mr. Chidambaram's options get very, very constrained, and even if he approaches the Supreme Court, just as you were asking Dr. Swamy, there will not be an immediate bail protection or a question of his immediate release, because then in this case the agencies will produce him in a court of law, and then the court will decide whether there is further custodial interrogation, which means that the law enforcement custody interrogation or the judicial custody is required in the case, or else Mr. Chidambaram needs to be set free. So therefore all of that will then play out in a trial court, not in the Supreme Court, not in the High Court. High Court option is already exhausted. Production will happen in front of a trial court. Supreme Court can get seized of the matter, but nothing more can they do if the agencies effect an arrest at this stage. Effecting an arrest would eventually mean that Mr. Chidambaram's freedom is already curtailed much before the Supreme Court comes to hear that petition and gives him another additional protective umbrella, which he has enjoyed for close to 18 months already, courtesy the Delhi High Court proceedings. Now, if that doesn't happen, then for sure it is absolutely up to the judicial call or the judgmental law enforcement call between the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI. This is an original CBI case. It's the CBI that arrested Karthi Chidambaram in this case. It's the CBI which has been the lead law enforcement agency in this case. It's the CBI that has also filed its first charge sheet in this case, which would then mean that the CBI will also have to take first coercive action when it comes to former Finance Minister, former Home Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram. If that happens, as I was telling in my last conversation, it would be a dramatic escalation of this INX media case, in which the last significant twist has come from a murder-accused INX media's former owners, Miss Indrani Mukherjee herself, who who
Okay.
says that Mr. Chidambaram in his North Block office of the finance minister prodded her to meet his son Karti Chidambaram at a private hotel in New Delhi, and that's where the entire deal was swung
In
for
fact,
a consideration
before
of
we get more
huge
details
amount
of that and speak about that in detail, let me get a quick update from Kangana as well. She's joining us live from outside Mr. P. Chidambaram's residence there in Jorbagh. A 5-member team is present there. Any information on Mr. P. Chidambaram's whereabouts, Kangana?
While Padmaja, I would like to inform you that there are 2 to 3 teams that have gone inside. Collectively, close to 12 to 13 people of CBI have gone inside Chidambaram's residence. They came here close to 5 to 7 minutes back. We all have been waiting here at Chidambaram's residence to come so that he could talk to the media what is going to be his next plan of action, because as you know, he's received a big setback from the Delhi High Court today. Then he moved to the Supreme Court, where also he didn't get any relief because he couldn't had an urgent hearing this matter. But what comes at a biggest setback is that the CBI team, Central Bureau of Investigation team, is right now here at Chidambaram's residence in Jorbagh. This is one of his residence, and we can be sure that it's the CBI team. We tried confirming with them whether it's ED or CBI. So we've got to know that it's CBI team of 12 to 13 people here. But what we are expecting is probably they might have come to summon him, or probably they might have come to arrest him. We are not very sure about this. But as of now, P. Chidambaram, the former finance minister and the senior Congress leader, is not inside his residence. This we are sure about, because we have been waiting here since afternoon to hear about what is going to be his next set of moves. But the CBI team is right here. I will
This
ask
is
my video
interesting.
journalist-
So the CBI teams are at the former finance minister's house, but Kangana confirming to us that he is not present there. Outside the CBI headquarters is Priyank Tripathi. What are you hearing from your sources? What's the CBI team doing there? And since we are learning that Mr. Chidambaram is not in his house, what next, Priyank? All right, I don't think Priyank can hear me right now. Nikunj, can you take that question?
Yes, Padmaja.
My question to you was that we have teams of the CBI at Mr. Chidambaram's house, but now we are learning that perhaps he is not at his residence. What happens next then?
Well, they would certainly search for all the possible known locations of Mr. Chidambaram if they have indeed landed in such large numbers as Kangana is indicating at his doorsteps, at his at least known doorsteps to the law enforcement agencies. Then in that case, all other known addresses would also certainly be searched tonight. And tonight is going to be a very long night for Mr. Chidambaram in that case. But if there are no more known locations of Mr. Chidambaram in Delhi, then you can expect teams at his Chennai residence, teams at his other residences, if any, anywhere else in India. And also office premises of Karti Chidambaram, where during the day, at least Karti Chidambaram was present. Now, having said that, if they've only come to issue fresh summons, which looks to me extremely unlikely, because in case of a fresh summons, they don't have to bring such a strong contingent. They have to bring a strong contingent. It quite clearly is a very dreaded possibility, which is for Mr. Chidambaram at least often affecting a lawful arrest, and which would mean that they also have law officers present with them, and they also have an arrest warrant from a magistrate, which clearly means that they have done their homework well. The protective umbrella was waved off somewhere close to 4 p.m., but the duty magistrates do sit close to that time. The CBI has looks like if they are present there in such strong numbers, got an arrest warrant very, very quickly from a magistrate, much before Mr. Chidambaram could make his next move. And if they've got an arrest warrant, quite clearly they would want to effect an arrest. Quite clearly they would want to execute that warrant. And if that doesn't happen at Mr. Chidambaram's last known location to them, then for the time of the validity of that arrest warrant, which means clearly next 24 hours, they will try their best, like any other law enforcement agency, to execute that arrest warrant, which would eventually result in Mr. Chidambaram's freedom being curtailed.
Also, it seems very curious, and let me bring in Priyank on this. If he can hear me now, he is at the CBI headquarters. Priyank, Mr. Chidambaram was seen earlier in the day. He was at the Supreme Court premises, and now it seems the CBI team, which is present at his house, can't find him there. What are your sources telling you?
See, Padmaja, we also had a track of Mr. Chidambaram before this order could come out, because the order was expected at 2:15, and later in the day around 2:30 the order came up, and since then no one knows where exactly Mr. P. Chidambaram was. We have spoken to our court reporters also. They could also say that he was spotted in the Supreme Court, but later to that there is no information. We are talking about a former Home Minister, former Finance Minister, so he also knows that how he should deal with such a situation. He is an eminent lawyer also, and knowing the fact that there was an urgent plea which was moved before the Supreme Court for an urgent hearing, which has been declined, and now it is expected that the matter can come up before the Supreme Court at 10:30. And as Nikunj has certainly rightly pointed out, that so many large number of police CBI officials present at the residence of Mr. Chidambaram are certainly not there to give summon to Mr. Chidambaram to join further investigation. So there are two things which can happen as of now. One is serving summon to Mr. Chidambaram to appear before the Central Bureau of Investigation, since CBI was the first agency which started this INX media case, and the case was handed over to the Mumbai branch of CBI officials. SS Groom was the first SSP, and later to that things have taken so many twists and turns, and now you have Indrani Mukherjee herself turning out to be an approver. So since CBI and ED, both the agencies have been pressing it to the court time and again that we want to go for custodial interrogation, there's no point of guessing, Padmaja, that what the agency wants for. It can happen tonight, today, if they find Mr. Chidambaram, this can happen today as well. And if not, if they have to go in a sober and subtle manner, then he can be called in for questioning. And like Mr. Ratul Puri, what happened yesterday by the Enforcement Directorate, same thing can be done by the CBI.